Hey guys, welcome back to Football Discussions. Today, what I thought we would do is go over the 2019 NFL first round draft class and kind of decide whether these players are going to be an immediate impact player, an overtime impactful player for the team, or a bust in their NFL careers. So, if I write an IM next to their name, they're going to be an immediate impact player. If I write an OT next to their name, they'll be impactful over time. And if I write a B, they'll be a bust. So, getting right into it, we have Kyler Murray, taken by the Arizona Cardinals first overall from Oklahoma. He's going to fit great in Kingsbury's scheme. Already named the starter for Arizona. So I think that he'll have an immediate impact. Just a good football player. Next Michael Vick, in my opinion. I know that's a bold statement, but I could definitely see that being a possibility. So I think that Kyler Murray is going to be an immediate impact player. All right, so now Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa, also an IM. Great edge rusher. Him and his brother Joey, just a athletic family. The Bosas are just so much talent. I think that he'll get to the quarterback and fit into this growing 49ers defense very nicely, whether it's with Quan Alexander or D Ford even. Just good, solid players coming into this 49ers defense now. So I think he'll have an immediate impact on that defense. Quinnen Williams. Quinnen Williams, also an IM. He was my number one player in the 2019 draft. I think he's so talented. I think he'll have a great NFL career with the Jets. So Quinnen Williams, IM, Nick Bosa, IM, and Kyler Murray, all immediate impact players. Clelin Ferrell, or Cleveland, however you want to pronounce it, I think he's going to be an overtime impactful player. He's got talent, but I think it's going to take him a little bit to adjust to the NFL. So right now, I'll put him at OT. Devin White. Devin White's a tough one because I love what I saw of him at LSU, but he's not exactly a sound, full developed player yet. I think it's going to take him maybe a year or two. I don't know. He could be an immediate. I'll write him as a IM because I definitely think he could have success this year. But don't be surprised if it takes him a couple of years to adjust to the old NFL. All right, we'll kind of bump these out of here. Previous ones. All right, Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is tough. I think that Daniel Jones is going to be, he could be an overtime impactful player, but I did not like this pick by the Giants at all. I think he'll be a bust. I don't think he's really going to have much success in the NFL. Josh Allen, another IM. The fact that he fell to 7 baffles me every time I think about this draft. So I think that Josh Allen is definitely an immediate impact player on that Jacksonville Jaguars defense. Next up, TJ Hawkinson. I think it's going to take TJ a few years to come into his own in the NFL. And the Lions haven't really utilized the tight ends they draft that well in the past. So this one could be troublesome if they don't utilize Hawkinson right, like they didn't utilize even Ebron right. And we all know how he turned out on the Colts this year, had a phenomenal season. So I think that if they use Hawkinson right, he can have an overtime impact on this team. Ed Oliver's going to have an immediate impact with the Bills. The Bills needed interior defenseman, and boy, did they get a good one. I think he was behind Quinnen Williams, the best player in this draft. He just had some off the field issues, so I think that Ed Oliver will be an immediate impact player over there in Buffalo. Devin Bush, also an IM. The gap that Ryan Shazier has left in Pittsburgh has taken Pittsburgh a little bit to get over, and now I think that they finally got the guy to do it in Devin Bush. Devin Bush is that guy. Jonah Williams. I think it's going to take Jonah a little time. There was a guy in the second round named. Now I'm blanking on his name. Let's see if we can pull it up here. Obviously, we can't. He went to the Jaguars. He was a tackle. I thought he was better than Jonah Williams, but he went in the second round to the Jaguars. So I think that Jonah here was a little high. I know people are going to disagree with me there, but I think that Jonah is going to take him. He's going to be a good player, but it's going to take him a bit. Rashawn Gary, also overtime impact. Rashawn uh, had great success in his second to last year at Michigan, but last year was a bit iffy, kind of why his draft stock fell so much. He could have been top 3 easy if he had a great year like he did 2 years ago in Ann Arbor, but unfortunately he didn't. So he went to 12. So I think he'll be an overtime impact player for his team. Christian Wilkins, also overtime. A lot of these Clemson guys that went so high, I think they're not exactly like Clelin Ferrell and Christian Wilkins. I think they're not exactly groomed to be immediate NFL players yet. So I think it's going to take them a minute to kind of come into their own here. And Christian Wilkins is not an exception to that. Chris Lindstrom, bust. Not a fan of his tape at all. Kind of weak. Not really the strongest guard you'll see. I think that he's not going to be a good match for NFL defensemen. And the Falcons took him so high. I did not like this pick at all. This might have been the steal of the draft. Oh boy, what's happening? I'm a huge fan of Dwayne Haskins, and I'm a Michigan fan. So to say that just obviously means something if you know the rivalry over there. I think that Haskins had a phenomenal year, 50 touchdowns. If you throw 50 touchdowns in the NFL, you're winning MVP, and he threw that in 1 year in college football in one of the best defensive conferences in college football, being the Big Ten. So I think that Dwayne Haskins is going to have an immediate impact with the Washington Redskins. I really like this pick. Brian Burns. I'm a huge fan of Brian Burns. But another guy that's not exactly groomed yet. I think it's going to take him a couple of years to kind of come into his own and be an impactful player for the Carolina Panthers. But I do like that pick a lot by the Panthers. Another guy it's going to take him a bit. Dexter Lawrence. Giants took him a little high in my opinion. I think he was like 26 to 32 area. Would have been fine taking him. 17 was a little high. Especially with Jeffrey Simmons, who you'll see a little further down on the board. But Simmons is gonna have to sit out for a year due to some off the field issues as well as a knee injury. So I think that him and Dexter, I'll just write Jeffrey in since I've been talking about him. I think both of these guys are overtime impact players for their teams. Both of them talented, but they're gonna take a little time to get into the NFL. I think that Garrett Bradbury. I love this pick by the Vikings. They didn't see Jonah Williams, who's their number 1 guy on the board here, and they know they have to protect Kirk Cousins. So they decided to grab Bradbury here. Bradbury's not only can play center, but he also can shift that to those guard positions if they need him over there. So I think he'll have an immediate impact on the Minnesota Vikings. Noah Fant, with Flacco throwing him the ball. Flacco loves tight ends, so immediate impact over in Denver for Fant. As a Broncos fan, at first I did not like this pick. I wanted Locke here, but then we ended up getting him later. So I was overall happy getting a great athletic tight end like Fant who can basically line up in that slot receiver spot and just go up and get balls from Flacco. So I'm excited to see how that turns out this year. I think he'll have an immediate impact in Denver, probably like 750 receiving yards, and like 7 or 8 touchdowns. Darnell Savage. I'm a huge fan of Savage's. If you guys watched that Ohio State game, he played lights out. I'll put him at. I think it's just going to take him. He's not like I've said this word a lot. Groomed. A lot of these guys aren't groomed for the NFL yet. They're going to need some coaching, kind of settle them down, learn technique better. But I think that Darnell Savage is going to have in a few years going to be a great player. Andre Dillard, another guy who's not necessarily bad, but not ready to go up against NFL defensive linemen like Aaron Darnold or Von Miller or Khalil Mack yet. So I think that Dillard's it's just going to take him a bit to become an impactful player for his team. Titus Howard, bust. Not a fan He went to Alabama State, didn't really play any good defenders, and he's making a jump from trashy college defenders to uh, amazing NFL defenders. Maybe J.J. Watt can kind of help him out because he'll have to go up against guys like J.J. and Jadavion in practice. So, uh, but I think that Titus Howard is going to be a bust for the Texans. Josh Jacobs, I think after Crowell's injury, Gruden is going to focus full on Josh Jacobs, and that's going to help him build some confidence this offseason and really become that starting player in Oakland. So I think he'll have an immediate impact. Marquise Brown, another guy who has an immediate impact in Baltimore. The Ravens lost John Brown in free agency. They don't have many weapons, and I'm excited to see this Lamar Jackson, Marquise Brown duo in a Baltimore. Montez Sweat, immediate impact. This was the Redskins just drafted fantastic. That's not something you say a lot, but the Redskins drafted fantastic this draft. I was astonished with this trade up was brilliant for them. Getting Montez here, really, really good for the Washington Redskins. So I was excited by that pick, and I think that Montez will have an immediate impact in Washington. Jonathan Abrams, not a fan. I think he had like 4.7 or 4.8 speed as a safety, and when you're going up against fast wide receivers, slot wide receivers, shooting up the middle of the field, that's not going to be a good scenario for Jonathan Abram. And not to mention, he doesn't stop the run that well. So I think that was a bad pick by Oakland. Nasir Adderley, if you're going to go safety, would have been my pick there, but they went with Abram, and I think he's going to be a bust. Jerry Tillery, another guy. Tillery's a little psycho. He's not right in the brain, and I think that's going to translate. He's just not going to be able to handle himself in the NFL. I think he'll be a bust. L.J. Collier, I thought this was really high from the Seahawks. They traded back a couple of times, and I did not like this pick. But I think that they needed an edge rusher, and instead they got a run stopper after losing Frank Clark. So I think that this wasn't a replacement pick. He's on the. I think I'm gonna mark him as a bust too. I wasn't a fan of this pick. DeAndre Baker, I am. I love this guy. He won I believe it's called the Jim Thornton Award, which is best cornerback in college football. An outstanding player, and I think he'll have this was my favorite Giants pick of the draft. I think he'll have a great impact. Caleb McGarry, I can see him being good over time. 2 or 3 years, he can come into his own. I think he'll be a good player. And N'Keal Harry, I am. I'm iffy on Josh Gordon this season. We'll see if he plays or not. But I think that N'Keal Harry is going to be an IM player for the New England Patriots. All right, guys, so that's going to do it. I'll just scroll through these one more time so you can get one last glance at it. Kyler Murray, immediate. Nick Bosa, immediate. Quinnen Williams, immediate. Clelin Ferrell, over time. Devin White, immediate. Daniel Jones, bust. Josh Allen, immediate. TJ Hawkinson, over time. Ed Oliver, immediate. Devin Bush, immediate. Jonah Williams, over time. Rashawn Gary, over time. Christian Wilkins, over time. Chris Lindstrom, bust. Dwayne Haskins, immediate. Brian Burns, over time. Dexter Lawrence, over time. Garrett Bradbury, immediate. Jeffrey Simmons, over time. Noah Fant, immediate. Darnell Savage, over time. Andre Dillard, over time. Titus Howard, bust. Josh Jacobs, immediate. Marquise Brown, immediate. Montez Sweat, immediate. Jonathan Abram, bust. Jerry Tillery, bust. L.J. Collier, bust. DeAndre Baker, immediate. And Caleb McGarry, over time. And then N'Keal Harry, immediate impact. That's going to do it for today's video. Let me know what you guys think. Agree, disagree. I'd love to hear it. But yeah, see you guys next time.